Straightsmilesolutions.com, and today we're going to talk about Invisalign and elastics, specifically what happens if the patient gets like really off track and is still using elastics, and really why you need to be using virtual monitoring, especially on your elastic cases. So first of all, there is like zero research around this. This is just based on my experience and the experience of other orthodontists. I don't think Invisalign has any position on this. I haven't seen anything published on this. I just have the kind of eyes where I've seen so many Invisalign cases, probably as much or more than almost any orthodontist in the world. And I hate to make that assumption, but I just, because of what I do, I see a lot. And I see a lot of bad, and I see a lot of scary. And I'm the person people go to when their Invisalign cases get messed up. And I know how to fix them. So anyways, what I've noticed, and I've actually stopped using elastics a lot with my Invisalign cases and the ones that doctors are working on, because I found you really don't need them that often. It's completely different than with braces. With braces, you must have elastics in most cases where they're class 2, class 3, anterior open bites. I mean, there's just no other way a lot of times. You just need anchorage. The elastics are super useful. And by the way, if you are doing Invisalign and you don't do braces already, I think you should not be taking these kind of cases, because you will never fully understand how they work, when to use them, how to troubleshoot, what to do. Unless you've done elastics on braces patients, which is why I just keep saying I don't think anyone should be taking harder Invisalign cases unless they're also doing a lot of braces cases or have done, because there's just a fundamental understanding of orthodontics you'll never get from Invisalign, because Invisalign is a type of braces. It just moves slightly differently. And this is why a lot of orthodontists who graduate from residency have zero experience with aligners. I mean, like basic, like remedial level. Like my general dentists are way more sophisticated than them. And they often have to contract, and work with orthodontists that do have experience with aligners in order to get their speed up, because all of a sudden they're going into practice and they're expected to take these hard Invisalign cases. I mean, in my hands, I've done everything with Invisalign. I've done 4x extraction cases, molar uprighting, canine exposure, surgical cases, everything can be done with Invisalign. It's not always the most efficient. It's not always the fastest, but sometimes it is more efficient and sometimes it is faster. And it just takes that experience. Anyways, so question came up today with one of my doctors. Case was not tracking at all. It was off by maybe 2, 3, 4 aligners, like quite off, to the point where I'm like, whoa, pause, let's not keep going. We need to either backtrack, go back and see what fits, or we need to refine. Patient was in class 2 elastics. This is class 3, obviously, in this stock image. But just an example of, and by the way, even more so, I really want you, before you listen to this video, to go back and listen to all my elastic videos. I may still have a playlist if you look on my homepage. If not, you can go into my YouTube channel. To get to my YouTube channel, go to your YouTube channel, put in Straightsmile Solutions in the search bar. That takes you to my YouTube channel, which has a green banner. There's a magnifying glass in the top right corner. You can put in elastics, Invisalign. It'll take you to all my content. When to use elastics, when you need elastics, when you don't need elastics, what size elastics, cutouts versus buttons, slots versus buttons. These are slots here. I hate slots. Slots are dumb with Invisalign. I know people think it's great because you don't have to glue something on the teeth, but it's terrible because it's a counterforce, right? We want the aligner to always be seated. That's why we use Chewies. You can see it's not seated here, and this is not that bad. It's definitely not seated here. We're off like quite a lot. Definitely not seated here. Top is not bad. Bottom is off. But why is it off? Well, it's probably off because they're using elastics and it's pulling it up, right? At the same time, you want it to be pushed down. So this is like a counterforce, and that makes movement inefficient, unpredictable. I know that this is the default for elastics, but I hate them. So I always change my default to buttons. And to be honest, I mean, a lot of times they're never going to recommend elastics on cases. You're going to have to say you want them, and you're going to have to know when you need them. But I've found that, first of all, elastics are really meant to cant the occlusal plane. You can use them in situations maybe where you didn't want to do more IPR, you didn't want to take out a tooth, you didn't want to do more sequential distalization, you just wanted to cant the occlusal plane to fix a class 2 or class 3, a very, very, very minor one. In that case, fine, use the buttons. I'm cool with that, okay? Totally cool. We do that in braces all the time. We finish a case, we get to the end, we've closed the spaces, we've aligned the teeth, we're at, say, 2 millimeters of overjet and a 2mm class 2 malocclusion. Great. Bust out those elastics, okay? Bust out those class 2 elastics, finish up the case 1 or 2 months, we're done. You can do the same thing with Invisalign, okay? But I normally don't recommend throwing elastics into a case until you get to, I like to think of it the same way that I do with braces, and that sometimes you don't know if you need them till you get to the end. I want to see how much sequential distalization I can get first if that's what we're doing. Now, there's a few exceptions. If it was a full step class 2, 8mm class 2, we were doing sequential distalization, or we had taken out upper bis and we had 13mm overjet. Yeah, fine. Let's do elastics. I completely agree. Okay. But you need to be constantly checking to make sure your aligners, getting back to the topic, are fully seated. What happens if they're not fully seated? Well, then the forces aren't going the right way. The Clincheck is not going to be accurate. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know something weird and unpredictable is going to happen. It could be canting, it could be rocking, it could be one size higher than the other, it might be uneven bite. It's just not going to be the way it's supposed to be. The Clincheck is only going to turn out, it's very accurate. Listen, Clincheck software is very, 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 very accurate as long as you've staged it right, slowed it down a little bit, optimized it, and your patient's wearing it 22 to 24 hours a day. If your patient is not wearing it 22 to 24 hours a day, it's not going to track. If it doesn't track, it's not going to move predictably. And I certainly wouldn't be introducing an additional variable, which is the elastics, into the force. There's too many things going on at one time. So no, I don't know what's going to go wrong, but something's going to go wrong. So don't do it, which is why I definitely don't want you guys doing elastics on your Invisalign cases unless you're seeing them every 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe 3 weeks max, almost like you would do with a braces case. In a braces case, I'm either going to put my patient on virtual monitoring to check their elastic wear and see them maybe every 8 weeks. And this is what most orthodontists do, 8 to 10 weeks. This is what they do. Or they're going to see them in their office every 3 to 4 weeks. You do the exact same thing with your Invisalign patients. You don't just give them 10 trays and say, bye, wear your class 2 elastics. They need to be checking in every single aligner to check on tracking, to check on bite. I love the idea of giving them articulating paper to use at home so you can check if they start to, and this is the same thing with your MA cases, exact same thing, because it works in a kind of a similar way, but different. So anyways, just want to keep reiterating, if your patients have elastics with Invisalign, make sure they are tracking, make sure they are on virtual monitoring if they're not coming in your office every 2 or 3 weeks. All right, thanks so much.